Well, good morning. I'm trying to wrap up all of kind of what we've talked about here today and maybe look a little forward and probably to challenge you a little bit, especially your A&E types, consultant types out there on working with your client, the airlines, the airports, and what they expect you to do. My part of the program is talking about baggage handling in a little bit, but probably more on ticketing trends and to tie some of the things we've talked about before all together and maybe dispute a few things that these guys have said that obviously are confused. But with that, I'm Roddy Boggus. I'm the Executive Vice President of Aviation at Gresham Smith & Partners, 700 plus person firm with offices in the Southeast Texas, based in Nashville. Now that the commercial's over, I should press a button to move forward. And the ticketing and baggage process. You know, I think we all agree that airports are evolving, probably more especially as the business models of air carriers change and technology improves. The level of service that if you're a planner that you use when we talk about level of service, I think is also being redefined, maybe more so than what we see in our IATA book. And this is in part, I think, because the passengers, which are our end user clients, especially the millennials as they grow up and coming to the airport industry, are replacing the Gen Xers and the baby boomers. So I submit to you that it's time to rethink a little bit about airport ticketing and check-in, and maybe not do it the way we've always done it, for maybe because we've always done it that way. Has the era of large ticketing halls, has it given way to maybe large claim halls? Because when the gateway, is it the gateway when you're leaving the airport, or is it the gateway of when you're arriving? And by the way, who owns this process? Is it the airlines? Is it the airports? Is it the passengers? Maybe it's a little of all three. When we talk about level of service, most of us that plan airports, you know, we pull out our handy-dandy IATA book, and typically we look at the letters of the alphabet much the same as the grades you got in school, A, B, C, D, E, and F, and we don't really want to be an E or F, or probably really even a D. For the most part, at least in the U.S., we design to a level of service C, which is a good level of service, which during peak or surge times we may fall to a D or an E, but in times where we're not in peak level, we may be at a B or A. But it's also the level of service that's probably the most affordable for our clients, the airlines and the airports. As they say, you don't build the church most of the time for Easter Sunday. We also don't build the airport for our surge time. But as we look at levels of service, are they being redefined by the passengers we're dealing with? And we look at the millennials from 1982 to 2000. They're going to outnumber the baby boomers and the Gen Xers combined by 2010. And that's going to be our passengers. This generation is comfortable with computer screens. In colleges now, they have the electronic books. They're probably more comfortable with the electronic version of books than real books. Gadgets are like appendages to them. You know, they can't imagine life without cell phones, iPods, computers, or being online. I think my son, who's 16, last month's phone bill, he had 4,000 text messages. And some of them were to me in the same house. You know, somebody has said they're digital natives in a land of digital immigrants, with maybe most of us being the digital immigrants. But I think these people are our future customers in airports and aviation. When we look at the Gen Xers, you know, they remember the Atari, the Commodore 64, and boy, it was great when the Apple IIe came out. Wasn't that something? They grew up with computers, learning basic word processing, WordStar 2000, you know, typing skills and that type of thing. They've had technology from birth. They've seen the progression of technology from home computers to what we have today. They're still out there. They'll still be part of the passengers we serve, and they're comfortable with technology. Then we get to the baby boomers, and I hope I don't wind up looking like this guy. But, you know, 78 million baby boomers are becoming tech savvy, probably for nothing more than entertainment reasons, because we're digital TV and satellite. You have to be able to work that remote control that has 4,000 things to do on it. You know, some of them are doing iPods, they're doing email and text, but they're inclined to use technology mainly as gadgets or if it's something new they want to do. And as we learned from John, they have a tendency for self-induction into baggage systems. So when they check their bag, they may go with it. Kind of a new way of traveling I hadn't thought about. Obviously, we need one of those TSA blue, green, black systems for baby boomers, Gen Xers, and millennials. So what are the impacts of these processes on the airports that we design as A&Es and consultants? Well, as we said, in 2010, the millennials are supposed to outnumber the baby boomers and Gen Xers. They're technology driven. They define customer service differently, and I think maybe that's the key point. They interact via technology, a lot of texting, email, Facebook, and MySpace. But I think what's also interesting is studies have shown they lack interpersonal skills, and probably for the same reasons that my son has 4,000 text messages, some of to his family that are in the same house, is because their method of communication is electronic. They haven't had to learn to have interpersonal skills. So are they more comfortable in going to the ticket counter and dealing with an agent that makes them feel good or commiserates with them that they missed the 45-minute cutoff window and their bag's not going? Or are they more comfortable with wearing their iPod headphones, going to the kiosk, pressing their button, not interacting with anybody, getting their boarding pass, their bag tag, and going on their way? I would submit to you it's probably the latter. But they also don't have body language skills because they don't communicate. There's been several surveys that say they don't read body language as well. Whole new group of customers that we're talking about and having to deal with. And I think they're also the group talked about. If you're old enough to remember the song by Zager and Evans in the year 2525, I think we're at the point where maybe that song is important.
55, 55, your arms are hanging limp at your side. Your legs got nothing to do. Some machine doing that for you.
So we're probably at the time, with my little snippet there, that we have the machines doing a lot of this for us. And I think this process, the processes that we have need to change or have to change to accommodate this group. And I think it starts now with what we think about. So part of this is we go, well, who are our users? What are our level of service? What about the gateway element? I talked a little bit earlier about we always talk as designers of the gateway to Denver, the gateway to Detroit. Is it really a throwback from the train stations, the big train stations where you walked in and you had the big departure point and it was wide open space, and so we still emulate that or strive to emulate that in our airports. Yet when you arrive in your city, which may be your first taste of being there, you go down into a dungeon, sometimes a less lit baggage claim hall, which your bag may be 45 minutes to an hour and a half late. Is that really your destination point? Should that be your gateway? Some people sitting in this room will tell you that they believe that that is the gateway, and we are working toward a situation as we eliminate the need for the ticketing hall that our baggage claim becomes our gateway and should be our thematic element. So how do we change the gateway element if we want to? Well, we need to enhance the passenger experience, focus on new procedures, which we've talked a lot about here today, new amenities. Obviously, we need to make it quick, easy, and comfortable. With innovation and technology, we talk about cuss and cups and off-site check-in, printing of bag tags, and the ticket hall being able to bypass the counters. And we're already seeing the airlines, and we have for quite a long time, trying to reduce ticketing agents. As they reduce staff, try to control their costs. So as we continue to do that, again, it pushes for the reduction in what we have as a ticketing hall. And can we do a drop bag at a common conveyor? Do we really need to induct bags at each individual air carrier? And really, is the first time the passenger greeted by the airline, should it be as they board the aircraft? Now, in my day, this is what I was looking for. But in reality, we're probably looking for, as the passenger boards the plane for the first time, that's their first point into being with the air carrier, not something that we have today. The major advantages, we have the technology. Technology, with the exception of sometimes EDS, is getting smaller, is getting more efficient. Cost savings, we're reducing the initial costs. Listen, if we don't have to build the ticketing hall, there's a lot of construction cost, there's a lot of O&M costs, which eclipse the initial building costs. There's a lot of costs we can save, and as many people will say, from a sustainability standpoint, the best sustainable building is the one you didn't build. So I think we're looking at a paradigm shift, or I think maybe I'm challenging you to a paradigm shift from the 1970s to where we're looking at going in the future. A little new configuration, terminals will look a little different, more efficient, more flexible terminal design. So as we go and say, well, who owns this process? Who gets to make this decision? Outside of me, is it the airlines, the airports, the passengers? Well, the airlines like branding, and you can have a long conversation on branding with airlines. They like to maintain that their process needs to be